I'm going to call this work session to order at 4:17. Welcome, everyone. This is a special meeting for Kent School District Board, which is held in public to comply with Open Public Meeting Act. The purpose of this special meeting is Washington State Audit 2024-2025 Entrance Conference. Now we're going to do a roll call. Director Song is excused absent. Director Cook?
Present.
Director Clark?
Present.
Vice President, that's me, Awali, I'm here. President Margell is also excused absent. Deputy Superintendent Behringer, would you start us off?
Sure. Thank you very much. I would like to introduce our Associate Superintendent of Finance, Mr. Ben Rarick.
Good afternoon, board members. For those of you that have been on the board for a number of years, this meeting will not be unfamiliar to you. This is an annual meeting. Typically, as part of the annual audit cycle with the State Auditor's Office, we have both an entrance conference and an exit conference. And so here we are. This is the audit for the prior fiscal year, so the fiscal year 22-23 school year. The purpose today is to lay out that process. And so it's my pleasure to, am I introducing the both of you or just one of you speaking?
I'll start.
Okay. Kim Nguyen and Deanna Kovalevich are joining us today, and I don't know who's going to go first. Yep.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm Kim Nguyen. I'm the audit manager for Team South King County. We're the group that does the engagement every year for the district. Today I have Diana Kovalevich, who is the audit lead. Priscilla Wong is the audit supervisor. She's currently out on maternity leave, so you don't get the opportunity to meet her today. But that is pretty much our team. And so just a little bit about our office. We're an agency of the state of Washington. Our current state auditor is Pat McCarthy. And on the slide, you'll see the different types of audits that we conduct. So the three that's highlighted in the blue and green are the audits that we conduct the most. And these are audits that we are conducting this year for the district. Accountability, which really pertains to compliance with both local and state laws and policies. And then as far as financial, the district does prepare annual F-196, it's modified accrual. Diana will speak to that a little bit more in a further slide, and then as well as federal grant compliance. So in the last year, we conducted about 2,500 audits, and school districts in this region, as our team name describes, South King County, so many of your neighboring school districts we also audit. At this time, I'll turn it over to Diana to go over just the next few slides.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you. As it has been already said, we are conducting the 2022-2023 school year audit. So this year, we are going to be performing, there we go, an accountability audit. And currently, we are still in the planning stage of the audit. So areas that we will be evaluating will be determined and communicated at a later time. One thing I want to point out, when we're done with our audit, we will be issuing a report that will also include the results of the areas that we reviewed. We're also performing a financial statement audit for the 2023 school year, and we want to point out that the objective is to issue an opinion on whether the financial statements are materially correct. We also want to point out that our audits are conducted in accordance with government auditing standards, and these standards require that we look at the district's internal controls in order to prepare the financial statements. If we were to identify any kind of instances of potentially a misstatement to occur, we are required to alert you of those during our audit. We also want to point out that we also will be alert for any identified instances of non-compliance that could impact the information that's presented in your financial statements, and if something is noted, we will alert you as well. At the end of our engagement, we will issue a financial statement audit report that will be in accordance with regulatory basis of accounting. And this report will detail our opinion, our consideration of the district's controls and compliance, as well as include a full set of financial statements. We're also conducting a federal grant compliance audit for the 2023 school year. And an audit is required by federal law whenever a local government expends more than $750,000 annually in federal financial assistance. We will also provide an opinion on compliance with federal requirements that could have a direct and material effect on your major federal programs. The objective of a federal grant compliance audit is to determine whether the district materially complied with the requirements of receiving federal funding. We will also issue an opinion on the district's compliance with federal grant requirements, and we want to point out that these results will be included in a combined report with a financial statement audit. Another thing we want to mention is that our audits are conducted in accordance with uniform guidance, and these standards require us to also gain an understanding of your controls to ensure that federal grant requirements are followed. If we were to identify any instances of non-compliance that is significant, we will alert you of that as well. For the 2023 school year, the federal programs that we have selected for audit are Title I, with federal expenditures of $7,568,818. We're also reviewing special education cluster with federal expenditures of $6,951,680. We're also looking at the Education Stabilization Fund with federal expenditures of $31,072,803. And we're also looking at the English Language Acquisition State Grant, which had federal expenditures of $514,751. These expenditures amount to about 77% of the total federal expenditures that were reported for the 2023 school year. Any questions?
Any question?
Alrighty. With that being said, I'm going to pass it back to Kim to discuss the different ways that we stay connected during our audits.
Okay, thanks, Diana. And so this slide, we kind of just entail the overall audit process. It begins usually with a pre-audit meeting we call an audit kickoff call. That's typically when we're communicating expectations, scope throughout the audit. As far as engagement letters communicated at the start of the audit, similarly, just to communicate the scope, responsibilities for the respective parties throughout the audit, and the objectives of the audit as well. During our planning, we also perform risk assessments with members of management as well as members of a member of the board. And typically, we're just getting a sense of any changes in your organization since the last time we performed the audit. To ensure sufficient communication, we're holding weekly status meetings and keeping the district informed as far as the progress of the audit, to go over any items that we need to be able to progress and to wrap up the audit. And then typically, towards the end of the audit, we're obtaining that management representation letter. It's required based on auditing standards, and it just outlines, just has disclosures that you've made to us, summarizes any disclosures. And then as far as that exit conference, that's typically the meeting the board typically really is interested about, and that's where we communicate the final audit results. And on this slide, we've identified the different levels of reporting. And so the highest level or most elevated level is a finding. So typically, you're not wanting to see a finding. Findings typically communicate some type of material weakness or significant deficiency as far as some type of control framework. The body of the findings included in the audit report. Next, we have management letters, which are less severe than a finding, but a little bit more serious and does require communication to the board. These management letters typically is addressed, as the name describes, addressed to management, and so it just, an item like this, if not addressed, could potentially elevate to a finding. They are referenced in the report, but they're not included in the body of the report. And then we have the last item, which we refer to as exit items. And these are audit recommendations that we think are housekeeping items and typically are communicated to management because we think they're the best position to address those deficiencies. And so this slide, we want to communicate just some administrative aspects of the audit that we do think is important. The first being, please let us know if you're have any information, you're transmitting any information that is sensitive in nature. Of course, when we're dealing with student information, we want to make sure we're taking extra care with that information. In certain situations, we ask the district to consider maybe redacting certain information if it's not pertinent to our audit objectives, such as social security numbers. We rarely ever need any of that type of information. We've communicated audit costs within the packet as well as the engagement letter. And we also want to let you know there is an audit dispute process. Ideally, there would never be a conflict that arises, but we do want to know that there is a process should that ever occur. Typically, we'll start with our group, specifically with me, and then it will elevate to our Assistant Director of Local Audit or Director of Local Audit, and of course, the State Auditor. As a local government, State of Washington, there is a reporting requirement when it comes to alleged, known, or suspected losses. And so there's a framework as far as in what instances you have to do that reporting. But we wanted to remind you of this should you encounter any situations that it occurs. So do let us know if you have any questions about that loss reporting. And so this slide, we just want to remind you about cybersecurity reporting. And so as far as any cybersecurity incidents that involves more than 500 Washingtonians, there is a requirement to report to the Attorney General's office. And then any instances where you have a cybersecurity event that impacts your financial records or finances, you're required to report it to our office. And we've included links within the slide, which you can look at the reporting. So at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the upcoming audit.
No, the proposed end date?
Oh, sorry, as far as the scope or the timing of when the audit. So currently, our goal is to complete the financial and single audit by the May 31st deadline. And so that is the Federal Audit Clearinghouse deadline. This deadline is only if there are no issues. Should there be a significant issue that comes up, we can't guarantee that we'll meet that date, but of course we'll communicate with you. As far as accountability, the compliance audit that we referred to earlier, currently our engagement letter we've identified end of June as our goal to be able to meet that deadline. Of course, if we have the capacity, we'd like to get that audit done sooner.
You mentioned cost. How much and who pays?
Great question. So in terms of the cost, the district pays for it. As a local audit, typically we identify costs. There's an hourly rate that we use across governments for local governments, and so it's based on a certain number of hours. I can't tell you off the top of my head. I don't have that engagement letter in front of me, but we can get back to you on that.
Good.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, that's it. All right, we're gonna adjourn this meeting, and it is now 432.